Okay, you're sitting there, maybe at your desk or perhaps on your commute. Just try this with me for a second.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
Okay, open your hands as wide as you possibly can. Really stretch out those fingers. Got it.
Yep.
Now, clench them shut, like really hard. Feel that
Mm-mm.
tension.
Right.
Now, at the exact same time, open your jaw wide, like you're about to yell or take a massive bite,
Okay.
and throw in a bit of tension in your neck while you do it.
Wow. Okay. That's intense.
Intense, right? Feels kind of, I don't know, primal. Well, that move, that's claws and jaws, straight from the Muhata glossary.
That's right. And, that's what we're diving into today. We're exploring this really interesting possibility that this specific exercise, it might be more than just, well, a strange physical action. Yeah, we're looking into whether claws and jaws could tap into that powerful link between our minds and our bodies, and maybe even connect with our really deep shared evolutionary roots with animals. We've got some interesting source material on this.
Okay, but we need to be super clear right from the start here.
Absolutely.
Our sources, they don't include, like, specific scientific studies on claws and jaws itself, no double-blind trials or anything like that.
Correct. So we're not here saying this is scientifically proven to do X, Y, and Z. That's not the mission.
No. Instead, we're trying to connect the dots,
Yeah.
Can we build a sort of compelling picture by looking at the established science?
Exactly. Using things like the Muhata definition, discussions around facial feedback, hand grip strength research.
Which is surprisingly interesting.
It really is. And also looking at the basic similarities in mammalian brains. That's the foundation we're working from.
Okay, so let's really break it down then. What are we physically doing with claws and jaws?
So fundamentally, it's that simultaneous thing, opening hands and jaw forcefully,
Right.
and then adding that neck tension on top. So physically, you're engaging muscles in your forearms, definitely around the jaw, and in the neck itself.
Creating tension across those connected areas.
Precisely.
And the Muhata framing is, well, it's quite something. They talk about generating raw intimidation energy
Mm-hmm. That's the term they use.
and potentially activating latent humanimalistic subtleties. I love that phrase, to unleash your inner animal, like a tiger or bear or whatever.
It definitely paints a picture, doesn't it? It's meant to evoke something powerful.
For sure. And it's not just talk, right? It's in their app as an actual exercise you can log.
That's a key point. It's loggable, trackable. They even suggest rep ranges. We saw figures like 22 to 68 reps mentioned.
Wow. Okay. So they intend for people to do this regularly.
Seems so. Which leads us straight to the big question.
Hmm.
How could a physical action like that, hitting those specific muscles, actually impact our mental state?
Yeah. How does the mind follow the body here? And our sources, they give us some really compelling avenues to explore this. Let's start with the facial feedback hypothesis.
Okay. This area of research is, well, it's really gaining traction. The core idea is that just moving your facial muscles can actually influence how you feel emotionally.
So not just smiling because you're happy, but smiling to feel happier.
Kind of, yeah. Studies suggest if you voluntarily make a facial expression like a smile, you're more likely to actually experience some of that associated emotion. It seems the physical act itself contributes to the feeling and might even activate related brain areas.
That's wild. It's like your brain is taking cues from your face.
Yeah.
And didn't the sources mention something about electrical stimulation?
They did. There's research where using functional electrical stimulation, basically, gently activating specific facial muscles electrically, has shown improvements in depression symptoms.
Wow. That's a pretty direct link. Mind-blowing, actually.
It is.
Mhm.
So how does this maybe relate to claws and jaws? Well, think about the anatomy. Your jaw muscles, your neck muscles, they're all intricately connected within your head, linked directly into your nervous system. It's a really complex network up there.
Right.
And just like facial muscles connect to the autonomic nervous system, the system controlling involuntary stuff like heart rate and influence vagal tone, which is huge for mind-body regulation.
Yeah.
It stands to reason that strongly activating the jaw and neck muscles could also tap into these neurological pathways. It's not a subtle smile, obviously, but it's powerful muscle engagement in a key area.
That makes a lot of sense. It's all interconnected. Okay, so that's the face and jaw angle. What about the hands? You mentioned hand grip strength earlier. That seems simpler.
Simpler, maybe, but the potential effects are pretty surprising. Research suggests that isometric hand grip exercise is basically just squeezing something hard and holding it.
Like we did at the start.
Exactly like that. Doing that might actually speed up memory recall.
Get out.
Yeah, and enhance things like mental flexibility and just general alertness. The thinking is that this kind of intense muscle squeeze boosts overall physiological arousal. It kind of wakes up your nervous system.
Just from squeezing your hand. That's
Yeah.
unexpected. So how does that feed back into claws and jaws?
Well, think about the exercise again. A huge part of it is that forceful clenching.
Right, that isometric tension.
Precisely. You're contracting hard, holding it. So it's definitely plausible that this element could trigger a similar rise in physiological arousal.
Ah, okay. Contributing to that feeling of being more alert, more ready.
Potentially, yes. That feeling of being switched on.
Okay, so putting it together,
Yeah.
no direct claws and jaws study, we get that. But the principles from facial feedback and hand grip research offer a framework. A way it could influence our mental state through these known body-mind links.
Exactly. It provides a potential mechanism based on established science.
But what about that other part, the inner animal idea? Tapping into something primal. That sounds a bit more out there.
It does on the surface, perhaps, but it leads us to think about our biology, our place in the animal kingdom. And our sources offer some really fascinating points on the shared foundations of mammalian brains.
Right, which is kind of hard to grasp sometimes when you think about the difference between us and, say, a dolphin or a bat.
It's truly remarkable. Despite all the incredible diversity out there, the basic brain organization, the main structures, even the types of cells, they're surprisingly consistent across mammals, humans included.
Why is that?
Shared evolution. We all inherited this basic blueprint. We all have a cerebral cortex, a cerebellum, a brainstem. They're built from the same fundamental parts list.
Yeah.
Neurons, glial cells, capillaries. It points to a really, really deep biological connection.
Okay, but then you have animals with these incredible specialized skills.
Yeah.
Like you said, a dog's sense of smell is just off the charts compared to ours. Or the sources mentioned orcas in their complex social brains.
Yeah.
How does that fit?
Yeah, that's where things get specialized. Think of it as developmental emphasis. While the basic plan is shared, evolution has shaped different species to have certain brain regions that are way more developed, more complex, tailored to their way of life.
Like the dog's smell center, the olfactory bulb.
Exactly. It's vastly more sophisticated in a dog because smell is so critical for them. Orcas might have highly developed limbic areas related to social bonding and communication. So same basic parts, but different areas get supercharged, you could say.
Okay, shared structure, but specialized superhuman bits in other animals.
Yeah.
So how does doing claws and jaws connect us back to that shared heritage or those humanimalistic subtleties Muhata talks about?
Well, if we accept this shared biology as the foundation, it gives that Muhata concept some, well, biological grounding. Think about the actions themselves, gripping with your hands.
Yeah.
These are fundamental survival actions across countless species. Biting, grasping, holding on, fighting. These are deep instinctual behaviors.
Ah, I see where you're going.
Oh.
So the idea is by doing these basic primal-seeming actions.
You might be stimulating neural pathways that are evolutionarily ancient. Pathways we share with many other animals, even if we don't rely on them in the same way anymore in our, modern lives.
So it's not like you're changing your DNA or growing actual claws.
Definitely not. It's more about potentially activating or perhaps just becoming more aware of these existing physical and neural capacities that are part of our shared inheritance as mammals, gently nudging those ancient connections.
That's a really cool way to think about it. Less literal, more about tapping into conserved pathways. Now, Muhata also mentions generating raw intimidation energy. Could there be a neurochemical kick behind that feeling? Does claws and jaws release brain chemicals?
Well, again, the sources don't specifically link this exercise to specific chemicals, but we know a lot about how physical activity in general affects brain chemistry.
Okay.
And claws and jaws with that muscle engagement definitely counts as physical activity.
Right. So what chemicals are we talking about generally?
The most famous are probably endorphins, your body's natural mood boosters and pain relievers. Exercise often triggers their release.
The runner's high chemicals.
Sort of, yeah. They help reduce stress, improve mood. Then there's dopamine.
The reward chemical.
Exactly. And the Muhata app giving you digital currency for doing exercises like claws and jaws. That's almost certainly tapping into that dopamine reward system. Makes it feel good, makes you want to do it again.
Gamification at work. Makes sense.
It does. And remember the hand grip research? We talked about increased physiological arousal.
Yeah, alertness.
Right. While arousal isn't exactly a feel-good chemical like endorphins, that state of heightened alertness, feeling more switched on, could certainly contribute to a subjective feeling of, well, energy, maybe even that intimidation energy, depending on how you interpret it.
Okay, so no direct proof for claws and jaws causing a specific chemical cocktail,
Yeah.
but its physical nature, plus the app's reward system, suggests it could contribute to a generally more positive or energized neurochemical state.
That seems like a reasonable interpretation based on what we know.
So feeling better, maybe more alert. But what about the bigger claims? Mental changes, personality shifts. Is doing this exercise going to, I don't know, make someone fearless?
I think we need to be careful with the term personality altering. The sources really focus more on influencing mental states, mood, focus, stress levels, that kind of thing.
Not core personality traits.
Exactly. Consistent exercise and claws and jaws could definitely be part of a consistent routine is linked to lots of mental health benefits. Better mood, less stress, fewer symptoms of anxiety and depression, sharper focus, maybe better memory.
Okay, so it's more about the known benefits of regular physical activity, maybe with a unique flavor because of the specific muscles involved in claws and jaws.
I think that's a good way to put it. The Muhata language around raw intimidation energy or connecting with an inner animal, that feels more about cultivating a feeling, a mindset.
Like a subjective experience or a kind of empowered self-image.
Yeah, maybe even a playful way to think about yourself through movement, not necessarily a clinical personality change.
Got it. Okay, let's try and pull all these threads together. We've covered a lot of ground on this unique exercise. What are the main takeaways?
Okay, summarizing. Claws and jaws is this specific physical act, forearms, jaw, neck. The idea that the mind follows the body seems relevant here, supported by things like facial feedback and hand grip research showing physical actions can influence mental states.
Right, plausible mechanisms.
Then there's the evolutionary angle. Shared mammalian brain structures offer a biological basis, maybe, for that human-animalistic connection Muhata talks about, linking to fundamental behaviors like biting and grasping.
Primal connection idea.
And as a physical activity, especially within a rewarding app system, it likely contributes to a positive neurochemical state. Think endorphins, dopamine, arousal.
Feel-good factors and alertness.
And finally, while it probably won't overhaul your basic personality, practicing it could improve mental states, mood, focus, stress, like other forms of exercise. The inner animal part seems more about subjective feeling or mindset.
Okay, so no single smoking gun study on claws and jaws, but by weaving together these different threads, mind, body science, evolution, neurochemistry, we can build a pretty interesting picture of what might be going on.
Exactly. It shows how interconnected everything is, our bodies, our brains, our evolutionary past. It's quite fascinating when you step back.
It really is. It highlights that powerful, sometimes surprising link between just doing something physical and how we feel and think.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to a final thought for you listening out there. How might deliberately doing these kinds of basic fundamental physical actions, things that echo across the animal world, how might that subtly shift your state of mind? Or maybe just your awareness of being connected to that wider world. Inner animal, what you connect with if you tried something like this. And what could that connection, real or imagined, tell you about your own, maybe untapped potential? Something to mull over until next time.